Hello everyone, in this video we'll learn about lists in Python. Let's begin by understanding what lists are. Lists are a versatile and fundamental data structure in Python. A list is an ordered collection of elements, and each element can be of any data type. Lists are represented using square brackets and elements separated by commas. Lists can contain integers, floats, strings, and even other lists. Pretty much every data type. Now let's learn how to create lists in Python. To create a list, simply assign a variable to a sequence of elements using the square brackets. Our first list will be called numbers, and it'll contain integers, going from 1 to 5. When you're writing lists, as long as they're separated by commas, you should be fine. So you could even write your lists like this without spaces, but I prefer to have spaces just for readability purposes. Our second list will be called fruits, and it'll contain some fruits. We'll start with apple, and then banana, and then orange, and then grape. So as you can see here, the first list contains numbers, and the second list contains strings. Note how these are each individual strings, and I'm not just assigning one giant string with commas inside it. Make sure you actually have a bunch of strings. If we printed our numbers variable, you can see that it prints out our list just like this. That's pretty much exactly how we wrote our list. If we printed out our fruits list instead, we would get the exact list. So in the next section, we're going to learn how to pick out specific items in the list. Once you have a list, you can access its elements using indexing. Indexing in Python starts from 0. So the first element has an index of 0, the second element has an index of 1, and so on. If you're new to computer science, this might be tricky for you at first, but just remember that the first item in the list has an index of 0, and it goes on. So in this example, we can start printing our specific items in the list instead of an entire list. So let's say we wanted to get the first item in our numbers list, where we would print numbers, and then in square brackets, 0. So over here, let me just take this out of a print statement so I can show it to you here. When we're referencing an index, you are not doing an equal sign or assigning anything, because this is assigning it to a list containing the integer 0. You put it right up against the name of the list, and that's where your square brackets go. So square brackets in Python aren't only used for lists, they're also used for referencing indexes of lists, so make sure that you're careful with this. And so number 0, we can actually just print this by putting it in our print statement. And so this will print the first item in our list, so it'll print 1. Now if we wanted, we could print numbers and then a different index, so we could put 2 here. So this would print out 3, since it's the third item in the list. The third item has index 2. Lastly, we could just print something from fruits. So over here we will just do 3. So it will print grape because it's the third one. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So when we print this, it says 1, 3, and grape. Now that you know how to access certain items in the list, it's time for you to know how to replace items in the list with other values. With our example, we can change items in the list. Let's delete the last 2 print statements. So let's say we wanted to change the second item in our numbers list to be 6 instead of 2. Well, we could do that simply by referencing the item by its index. If you remember, the second item in the list is actually index 1. So here we will set numbers, and then we'll say square brackets, and then we'll type 1. So we're referencing the index 1. And then we'll just say the first index now equals 6. And so if we printed this after it, what this would do is it'll print numbers, so it'll print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then after we assigned a new value to 2, which is now 6, it'll print it again, so now it'll say 1, 6, 3, 4, 5. And so when we save it and run it, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. After we changed it, now it says 1, 6, 3, 4, 5. Note that with this method of changing items, if you try to change an item that doesn't exist, so for example, index 9, you'll get an error, because it has to be an item in the list. If you want to learn how to add items to the list, you'll learn that in one of the next sections. Python allows you to extract a sublist from a list using slicing. Slicing is done using the colon operator, and it returns a new list with the specified elements. In Python, slicing is just getting a section of a list. So for this example, I'm just going to add another one over here. It's just going to be strawberry. I just need a little bit more items in the list so I could show you this example. So let's say we wanted to slice fruits into a new sublist. So we can create any variable name. I'm just going to call it sublist, and we'll set it to fruits, but items 1 through 4. So we're referencing with indexes, but we're putting this colon here, which is actually saying we're going to go from 1 all the way up to, but not including 4. So this will return 3 items. It'll return banana, orange, and grape. But it won't return strawberry, even though it has 4. This is the 4th index. It goes up to, but doesn't include this one. It does include 1, but it doesn't include 4. If we printed fruits and then printed sublist, we would get 2 different results. We would get the full list that we just have over here, and then we would get sublist, which is banana, orange, and grape, which is the 3 items that we referenced over here. If we decided to change the values of fruits 1 through 4, we could do just that. So with this, we could actually just say fruits 1 to 4 is equal to, and then a new set of items like pineapple, watermelon, and then lemon. And now if we printed fruits, we would get something different. Instead of it being apple, banana, orange, grape, strawberry, now it's apple, pineapple, watermelon, lemon, strawberry, because we changed these 3 items with these 3 items. You could also replace 3 items with 1 item. So instead, we could just change this to pineapple, and it would shorten our list, but you can replace items with a different number of items, and you can also do this with more items. So pineapple, watermelon, lemon, and then we could also just do blueberry, and it would actually add more items to the list. And that's fine too, because it doesn't matter how many items you're replacing it with or replacing. Now it's time to learn how to get the last element in a list, because if you remember, we did do indexes, but I didn't show you how to reference the last item in the list. We could just print the last item in the list by doing print, and then fruits index -1. And so we wouldn't do 0 because that's the first one. We wouldn't do 1 because it's the second one, but -1 is the last item. And the second to last item would be -2, and so on. So when we printed -1, it would get the last item in the list, which is strawberry. Similarly, you could also get a sublist of the last 2 items in the list by typing -2 and then a colon. So unlike before, when we had 2 numbers separated by a colon, this time we only have 1 on the left side of the colon and nothing on the right side. This is because when you don't put a number there, it just signifies onward, as in, I want to reference index -2 and onward, which will give us the last 2 items in the list, because it's -2 and then everything else. And so as you can see, we get grape and strawberry. Lists in Python come with several built-in methods that allow us to modify, add, and remove elements. Let's explore some of the most commonly used list methods. The len function returns the number of elements in a list. So let's remove our numbers list and our print statement here. And now we can use our len function to find the length of our list. So if we did length, we set a new variable equal to length, and we do len fruits. So this is setting length to the length of fruits, which is a list. So the len function will return how many items are in the list. Simple as that. And so if we printed length, we would get 5, because there's 5 items in the list. The append method adds an element to the end of the list. So we could just append an item by doing fruits.append, and then we could just append another grape. And if we now printed fruits, we would get this whole list, but then with grape at the end of it, because we have actually changed the list by adding 1 item to the end. The remove method removes the first occurrence of a specified element from the list. So if we had our new list, we could actually just add one over here called grape if we wanted to. And now we can just use fruits.remove grape. And so this will not remove both instances of grape. It'll only remove the first one. So we're going to get apple, banana, orange, strawberry, and grape. Not this one, because we removed this one. So when we print this, we get what I just said. This whole list without grape in the middle. The insert method inserts an element at a specific index in the list. So over here we could just do fruits.insert, and then we specify the index that we want. So if we wanted to insert it right in between apple and banana, we would insert it at index 1, and then for the second argument of this function, we would just put what we wanted to insert. So we could insert grape in between here. If we print this, we would get apple, grape, banana, orange, grape, strawberry, grape, because we inserted another grape in between apple and banana. The pop method removes the element at a specific index. So over here, if we just did fruits.pop1 and then printed fruits, we would remove banana. So if we ran this, we would just not see banana anymore because we removed it. We get apple, orange, grape, strawberry, grape instead of apple, banana, orange, grape, strawberry, grape. And by default, pop just removes the last item. So if you don't put an argument here, it will just remove the last item, which is great, so we don't get that anymore. The clear method removes all elements from a list, making it empty. So over here we have fruits, and we could say fruits.clear, and then print fruits, and we would just get an empty list, which is just 2 brackets like that. And if you ever want to create an empty list, by the way, just create your variable name, and then just put these 2 brackets here like that. And that's useful for when you want to just use the append function later in your program and append items to your list based on what happens in your program. The count method returns the number of occurrences from a specified element in a list. So if we wanted to create a new variable called count and then grape, we would set this to fruits.count, and then we'll count the amount of times grape is in our list. And this would return 2. So if we printed this, we would get 2 because there are 2 grapes in our list. If we removed one of them, it would return 1 instead because there's 1 grape in our list now. The reverse method reverses the order of the elements in the list. So over here, if we did fruits.reverse and then we printed fruits, we would just get strawberry, grape, and so on because it would just reverse it. So there we go, we have just reversed everything in the list. The sort method sorts the elements of a list in ascending order. So if we had, I think this would be easier to explain with numbers. So if we had a list called numbers, and we set this equal to 3, 1, 4, 2, and 5, we could now just sort this list by doing numbers.sort, and then printing numbers, and we would get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because it has sorted the list in ascending order. Lists can be concatenated using the plus operator to create a new list with elements from both lists, just like you do with string concatenation. We can set 2 lists, list 1, and we can set that equal to 1, 2, 3, and we can have list 2 equal to 4, 5, 6. We can have a new list called combined list, and have that equal to list 1 plus list 2. And this would give us both of those lists combined. So if we now printed this, we would get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 because it added them together with this plus operator. Lists are a powerful tool in Python that allow us to store and manipulate collections of data. Understanding lists and their methods is essential for any Python programmer. I'll see you in the next video.